Everyone, welcome to Peepo Coin Channel. If you are already a subscriber to the channel, I hope you will do so after watching this video. Therefore, we have noticed a significant change from the US authorities, particularly with regard to stable currency. Additionally, we have been hearing a lot about RLUSD, and we are beginning to see more of what Ripple is attempting to accomplish with XRP and the RLUSD stablecoin. Actually, Ripple President Monica Long attested to the true nature of the situation, and I believe that this resolves all of the misunderstandings around what RUSD is doing and how XRP fits into the scheme of things. The biggest misperception, in my opinion, about all of this is that many XRP haters are out there claiming that RUSD makes XRP completely irrelevant. It's a far cry from reality, and I've made numerous attempts to outline this. However, it still feels like no one is paying attention. It seems like many people are still unsure of what precisely is happening here. Even though I know that many of you out there do listen, still, enough squandering of time. Let's investigate what's happening here. First, the RLUSD keeps getting issued. In fact, this one was on the XRP ledger. It was roughly 350,000. Now, this was the only more recent one that I truly observed. Apart from that, we did see roughly 50 million on April 2nd, which is precisely what we want to see. We would want to see more extensive releases of these kinds of huge clips, compared to the previous ones, where over 100 million were given all at once. This was a relatively small number. I believe that this accounted for about 25% of the supply of RLUSD, which is crazy. However, if we take a closer look at RLUSD, we do currently have roughly 294 million in circulation. Around $88 million is also the trading volume around RUSD. Thus, once more, the stablecoin is being widely adopted here. Additionally, while examining USD stablecoins generally, RUSD is unquestionably rising in the rankings. The actual numbers on this list are around 10 or 15 or something like. In spite of that, we're so close to really flipping a couple more. We'll likely be at number 5 on this list by the end of the year, as Ripple predicted. That's kind of crazy to say, because that's roughly $2 billion in market capitalization, and at the current level of XRP or RUSD, you're talking about like $1.7 billion that need to be released before we can actually make it to the top 5. However, given all of these acquisitions and Ripple's actions, I am really interested to see what happens with RUSD next. In terms of RUSD, however, there are currently roughly 94 million associated with the XRP ledger according to the XRP ledger on RUSD.xyz. However, my primary focus is on the stablecoin's acceptance, which is crucial for the Holdings tab, correct? The number of genuine holders has increased by more than 383% in the past 30 days. Additionally, the monthly transfer volume has increased by approximately 122% to 995.6 million, and the monthly active addresses have increased by roughly 22% to 3.5K. It is evident that RUSD adoption is increasing, thus we would see that again. And if we have a look at XP Market, I believe that everyone should pay special attention to this website, especially those of you who own XRP, as it displays all of the token rankings on the XRP ledger. Additionally, it displays every liquidity pool. Right now, RUSD is ranked number 2 on this list, and its market capitalization is shown. Additionally, we can observe that there are 2.5K holdings, 466.7 trades over the previous 7 days, over 10.8 million DEX in the last 24 hours, and a total volume of 10.8 million. However, if we take a closer look at this, well, volume is what I'm examining. In a single day, the volume recently reached an all-time high of roughly 16.5 million. And that was just now on the 6th. We currently stand at about 12 million. Not too wild. However, it is quite bullish that there is this much trade volume surrounding the stablecoin on the XRP ledger. Additionally, you may view the AMM pools here. You can also check how much volume it is connected to. Here, XRP RUSD is the first place with roughly 6.6 million in liquidity. Additionally, you observe 8.6K transactions and a million transactions per day. Once more, I am really optimistic about the general acceptance of the basic currency on the XRP ledger side, since it highlights how optimistic this is for Ripple as well as for XRP and XRP holders. I do want to talk a little bit more about stable currency in the US now. This video has now been reposted by Subjective Views. We are now aware of this video clip. I will play it quickly. Get it out of the way, please. Additionally, we will give the stablecoin regime careful consideration. As instructed by President Trump, we will continue to employ stable coinage to maintain the United States as the world's leading reserve currency. Thank you. Once more, reliable coins will be essential to genuinely bolstering the dollar. However, in order to absorb all of the treasuries that nations are about to unload, they will hasten the passage of stablecoin legislation. In fact, I do believe that this is the right move. That, in my opinion, is precisely what is taking place right now with the tariff talks. China threatens to dump U.S. Treasury bonds, as you are aware. Therefore, it does make a great deal of sense. Congress might now establish a system that requires or incentivizes private issuers to maintain sizable Treasury reserves by enacting legislation like the Genius Act and the Stable Act. By doing this, a new domestic demand pool would be created to absorb excess supply. This might be viewed as a calculated maneuver by the Trump administration, which supports cryptocurrency and dollar supremacy, to stabilize the Treasury market and strengthen the dollar's position in the world economy. Once more, Scott Bessent was discussing this and their intention to use stable coins to support the dollar's reserve currency status. A fascinating aspect of this, however, is that President Trump's executive director of digital assets claims that they are bringing about a golden age for cryptocurrency. We have previously heard about this golden age of cryptocurrency in the past few months, particularly from David Sachs and others, so this is just another indication. We find it intriguing when we hear this because we consider it and ask ourselves, how are they going to do this? How will they introduce this? In actuality, it's via acceptance and the understanding of incorporating this technology. This is from Bob Hines, who said that under the Biden regulatory framework, digital asset companies were the targets of a militarized legal system. Under his direction, digital assets and new financial technology will enter a golden age. President Trump is the real crypto president. In addition to the latest executive order which we will discuss shortly, I believe that this has something to do with Scott Bessent's recent video, in which he reiterates his earlier post regarding stable currencies. In fact, it comes from Bank XRP. We will closely examine regulatory barriers to new payment methods and stable blockchain currency. Take a look. Thank you. The new payment system, the new financial system as we know it, is bridging legacy systems to the new ledgers, the new networks, and stable coins as the main driver around all of this. So once more, the main focus is on them discussing and openly addressing blockchain, stable coins and new payment systems because they are all connected. What's crazy about this is that when we consider all of the recent actions taken by Ripple, such as the acquisition of Hidden Road, we can see that the stablecoin market is not only growing rapidly with traditional markets and traditional institutional players, but it is also becoming a huge market. Additionally, Ripple is speeding this up with their acquisitions and actions, but we examine how this may impact XRP. Check out this movie clip, which features Big Shot to Riz XRP and Crypto Ari as well as Monica Long, the president of Ripple. Since XRP has historically been utilized in some of your products for cross-border transactions to make them faster and for liquidity